Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the incredibly elegant, yet utterly ruthless machinery of the Qing Dynasty. And we're going to look at the chilling, systematic erasure of an actual empress. We're stepping into a world where absolute power wasn't just about armies and swords. It was about silken bureaucracy, meticulous calligraphy, and this terrifyingly refined control over history itself.
So, let's kick things off with an almost impossible question. How on earth does history's most meticulously documented empire literally lose the face and name of its own empress? Well, this is the story of the Qianlong Emperor and his Step Empress Nara. And let me tell you, it is an absolute masterclass in how imperial power can just seamlessly rewrite reality.
Section 1. The Perfect Empire.
To really grasp how someone could be so completely erased, we first have to understand the tightly controlled canvas of the emperor's domain. 300 million, that was the population of the Qing Dynasty under the Qianlong Emperor. To put that into perspective, it made him one of the most powerful monarchs in all of human history. His borders pushed incredibly deep into Central Asia, and his word was unquestioned law. He was a man famous for his iron self-control, presiding over an empire that the entire world completely envied for its wealth, its refined art, and its absolutely flawless administration.
And the level of detail is just staggering. An entire, highly sophisticated bureaucracy existed solely to record every tiny detail of inner-court life. Court painters captured the exact embroidery on the collars of silken ceremonial robes, scribes logged every single gift received, the precise day a woman rose in the hierarchy, and even the exact dishes eaten at every single meal. The emperor literally knew exactly what his court had for breakfast. It was a level of micromanagement designed to preserve his elegant legacy forever, which, makes it all the more exquisitely absurd that a man with such a flawless filing system could somehow misplace his own empress.
Section 2. The Substitute Empress. Yet, right at the very top of this flawless, beautiful system, there's a glaring, deliberate, and honestly chilling void. The machinery of memory was just turned off for one specific woman. As you can see, the contrast is incredibly stark. With every other empress, we have beautiful, composed portraits, their personal names, and their distinct lineages all properly recorded. But with Step Empress Nara, there's no face. The personal name she was born with is just missing. Even her clan lineage is a complete mess of contradictions. In a system absolutely obsessed with perfect documentation, her page was intentionally torn out.
Now, her rise to power was entirely framed by the shadow of another woman. She started out as a respectable but secondary consort in 1734, but everything changed in 1748 when the emperor's primary wife, Empress Fuka, passed away. The emperor adored Fuka. Her death unleashed a grief so intense it actually frightened his court. But the empire practically required an empress to preside over its grand ceremonies, so Step Empress Nara stepped up. It was a highly pragmatic answer to a succession crisis, and her promotion was carefully delayed by the emperor so he wouldn't insult the memory of his deeply mourned true love.
Section 3. The Unforgivable Act. For 15 years, she played her part perfectly. She accompanied him on grand tours, bore him 3 children, and on the surface, their marriage appeared warm and totally successful. But then came the spring of 1765, during the emperor's famous southern tour. For a man who controlled the known world, what happened in Hangzhou was just utterly unthinkable. Suddenly, with zero public explanation, the empress was abruptly separated from the emperor. She was put on a boat and sent all the way back to Beijing, completely alone. And the emperor? He just continued his tour south like nothing had happened. When the official explanation finally leaked out, it was shocking. The empress had taken a blade and cut off her own hair.
Now you might be wondering, what's the big deal? To us today, a haircut seems pretty trivial, right? But in the highly symbolic, deeply elegant language of the Qing court, doing this was absolutely catastrophic. According to Manchu custom, a woman only cut her hair in deep mourning for the emperor or his mother. So doing this while the Qianlong Emperor was alive and well, it was essentially mourning him before he was dead. It was a literal death curse, delivered right to the face of the most powerful man on earth.
Section 4. 3 Theories of the Mystery.
It was the ultimate, unforgivable act of treason against imperial harmony. Think about it. Why would a woman who had spent 30 years mastering the delicate, intricate rules of the inner court commit an act she knew for sure would destroy her? Well, history leaves us with 3 unproven theories. Was it protest?
a defiant stand against an aging emperor who was collecting younger consorts? Was it renunciation, a spiritual attempt to just sever ties with the material world and become a Buddhist nun? Or was it a rupture, a sudden, violent mental breakdown, or a quarrel that just escalated past the point of no return? The crazy part is, we simply do not know. And we don't know because the emperor systematically destroyed all the evidence.
Section 5. The Systematic Erasure.
The emperor's reaction was a truly terrifying display of absolute power. He didn't use sudden bloody violence. Anger fades, after all. Instead, he used a far more elegant and, frankly, enduring weapon: passive-aggressive bureaucracy. With absolute cold finesse, he dismantled her existence piece by piece. First, he confiscated her imperial seal, the physical embodiment of her power, along with all her official papers. But here's the catch: he deliberately did not formally depose her. Stripping a sitting empress of her title without a public trial would be a messy scandal, and that would reflect poorly on his own impeccable judgment. So he left her the completely empty title of empress, while confining her as a ghost, attended by just a tiny fraction of her required staff.
She essentially became a paper empress, completely trapped inside the exquisite, refined walls of the Forbidden City, while her rivals just took over all her duties. She lived in this shadow state for roughly a year, and when she died quietly in the summer of 1766, the emperor's erasure of her shifted from mere confinement to something permanent, absolute, and shockingly petty.
Because even in death, the emperor's cold precision and, breathtaking pettiness just continued. He gave her a downgraded funeral with no formal mourning processions whatsoever. He denied her the string of honorific posthumous names that were given to every royal woman. He didn't even give her a gravestone. He literally just shoved her coffin into the tomb of another, much lower-ranking consort, almost like a servant buried beside a master. And to complete the whole erasure, he entirely ruined her legitimate son's claim to the throne, passing the empire to the son of her rival instead.
Section 6. What he couldn't erase.
By the time the Qianlong Emperor was finished, he had pulled her documents, burned her beautiful paintings, and completely erased her name. He weaponized the perfect, elegant record-keeping of the Qing Dynasty to create a perfect void. But, as it turns out, his absolute power had one fatal limit. He could not erase the sheer magnitude of what she did. The tragic irony here is that her haircut was simply too shocking for the thousands of people in the court to ever forget. It spread like wildfire. The single, deliberate, catastrophic act she chose with her own hands was just too large to bury. He punished her for using the blade, but the blade is exactly what immortalized her.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you pondering this. The Qianlong Emperor used all of his elegance, his power, and his meticulous bureaucratic machinery to silence his empress. But by destroying the record of her final years, he didn't just erase her life, he permanently sealed her motive. He made absolutely sure that we would never know exactly why she did it. But honestly, isn't that exactly why, centuries later, millions of people are still utterly captivated by her? Does the deliberate erasure of a person by absolute power only guarantee that we will forever try to tell their story? It's really something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us, and keep exploring the incredible depths of history.